The Morgan dollar, America's silver legacy. Let's just start by setting the scene. Picture this. We're in a saloon in the 1880s in Nevada. A miner, he slides a coin across the bar. That coin has a ringing sound unlike anything else other money makes. Now that coin, not only did this coin outlive the saloon, the miner, but today that coin can sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands, to collectors who've never even set a foot west of the Mississippi. Which is why today's story is all about the American dollar. We have to remember, this was a coin that was born from politics. It wasn't born from necessity that we actually needed this coin. The Morgan dollar was created because Western silver mining interests needed a market. After the Civil War, huge silver deposits were discovered in Nevada's Comstock Lode and some other places as well. But predominantly, Comstock Lode was one of the biggest finds. Mining barons then convinced the government to buy that silver, and Congress then duly obliged with the Bland-Allison Act of 1878. Now, this was a law requiring the US Treasury to purchase millions of dollars in silver bullion every month and strike it into a new special coin. The man tasked with designing this new coin, well, actually, he was an Englishman. He was a British-born engraver who joined the Philadelphia Mint only 2 years prior. Basically, he wanted, the right face for this coin. He realised that he was being given, because he'd only been there a short time, he had been given a right honour to actually do this. Whereas, the truth be told, the other engravers didn't want to know. They weren't that keen. Now, consequently, he wanted a real American woman rather than an imagined, idolised figure. And it just so happened a mutual friend of his, a painter called Thomas Ekin, he introduced him to a school teacher whose name is Anna Wilnis Williams. Now, Anna wasn't that keen on being a model. She decided that it wasn't for her. And it took a lot of persuading for him to actually, to get her to actually sit and model, Eventually, in November of 1876, he managed to get her to reluctantly agree to sit down for 5 sessions with him. And it took a lot of persuading, not just from him, but from her friends as well, Anyway, he called her the most perfect model he'd ever seen in both either England or in America. But what she gave to this coin was a distinctly American, almost neoclassical face. Now, on the reverse here, we have, a bold eagle, wings spread, and we can see that the eagle is clutching, like an olive branch, and also clutching a fistful of arrows as well. This was meant to demonstrate that this coin that America comes in peace, but shoots to kill. Now, where have I heard that before? Wasn't that in America, in a film? Someone tell me in below. I'm sure there was. We come in peace, shoot to kill. Anyway, but truthfully, what it was meant to demonstrate was that America is not afraid to use force where necessary. The thing is, it was, a bit of a twist to this, because it was a coin that nobody wanted to spend. Ironically, hardly anyone wanted to use these dollars. They were heavy. I mean, bearing in mind, you've actually got, it's made of 90% silver. It weighs nearly an ounce. So the Treasury minted them by hundreds of millions and then did something quite absurd. They warehoused them. They just stuck them away because nobody liked them. But because of this act that they had to make them, so bags upon bags of millions of the Morgan dollars just sat in bank vaults for decades. Some were never even touched by a single hand from the day they were struck. Production ran from 1878 to 1904, and then there was a pause. The coins seemed finished until, that is, World War One created a strange encore. The Pittman Act of 1918 authorised the melting of over 270 million silver dollars to support the British war effort and back the currency. An enormous act of destruction. That's a big reason why certain dates are so rare even today. You know, to replace some of what was lost, the mint struck some more dollars, Morgan dollars, one final time briefly in 1921. Now, using slightly modified dies, and then they phased these out, and then they brought in one of these, which I'm sure you're all aware of, the Morgan Peace Dollar. Slightly different, you can see on the back. This was meant to resemble the passing of World War One and present peace in our times, you know. So you can see now that the actual the peace dollar only has the olive branch. It doesn't have any fistful of arrows, and the eagle isn't, you know, like full spread. Also, when we look on the other side, you know, like we've got the Liberty, you know, with rays, you know, the sun rays, you know, to demonstrate freedom. Completely different in contrast to the original, where we've got all the different things of America encapsulated in this one headshot. You know, when you look in the head, you can see the wheat and the cotton, you know, like that's in her hair. This was all, because obviously this was predominantly what they produced at that time. So, but now when you look at this one, you can see it's completely different, completely different. Now the peace dollar ran on to the mid-30s. But anyway, getting back to us using this. For decades, millions of these coins just sat. They just sat in the bank, in the vaults. And then suddenly there was this discovery that, oh, we've got all these Morgan dollars. So in the 60s, when rising silver prices and a renewed interest in these coins sent collectors to the banks, and they were going trading their paper dollars basically for bags of these Morgan dollars. And of course, they're getting uncirculated, pristine Morgan dollars out. There are entire hordes of these coins that emerged looking as fresh as the day they were struck. Why? Because they were, essentially. They've been sat in a bag doing nothing. I mean, you look at this one. You look at this. It is absolutely mint. There's barely a mark on it. Barely a mark on it. And this is from 1886. 1886. You know, like, so you've got a coin that's basically, you know, like 140 years old, and it's in pristine condition. So this is the part of what makes the Morgan dollar so special. An unusually high number survived today in mint condition because so many of them were simply never spent, never went into circulation. So why is this coin, this particular coin, more than almost any other in American history, become such an obsession for collectors? Well, part of it is its sheer variety that's available. Remember, the Morgan dollars were struck at 5 different mints. Now, here's a tip for you. If you see one with a D, which is for the Denver Mint, and it's got a date on it other than 1921, you know you're looking at a forgery, because the Denver Mint only produced Morgan dollars for a brief period in 1921. If it's got no mint mark on there, and by the way, before people start shouting in the comments, where are the mint marks? Right, if you look above the D and the O, there should be a mint mark. Now, I don't know if that's close enough for you to actually see that, but you can't see a mint mark. Why? Because it was made at Philadelphia. So anything without a mint mark was minted in Philadelphia. New Orleans, let's have a look, let's see what one we got here. I know I've got some New Orleans ones here. There is one. Now, if we have a look here, and you can see how where there's an O just above the D, and in between the D and the O, but above it. And that is where you will find all the mint marks. Now, there are some rare dates, but the beauty of these coins is the fact that you're able to collect an absolutely fantastic date run of these coins And the best bit is there's subcategories. So you've not even got, you've not even got the same categories to look at, You can pick these up for around about, in this condition, sort of around about £100, probably a bit more now because of the fact that silver's gone up as well. But getting hold of these as a date run and a collection, these are just epic coins to behold. I love these. Getting hold of something that, I know, 1882, and it is absolutely in pristine condition. I mean, you look at the detail on that coin, and you look at the way that it's been preserved, and that's all because they've been sat in the bank. Now, this means that we can actually, as a collector, we have a design that spans dozens of date and mint combinations. Some of them are minted by the millions, others were minted just in a few thousand. So, there are plenty for you to choose from. And because so many sat untouched in the bank vaults for generations, it's possible for you to be just like me and have coins that are absolutely mint state, complete with, their original mint luster almost nowhere. Now that's a rare coin in this world. Anybody who's got coins like that, as well as I do, this is where most historic pieces show real circulation damage. There's also the tangibility factor. Each coin is roughly 90% silver, and some of them, if you measure them, like I do, I test everything, as we all know what happened, we all must be aware of what's happened to shards. For me, I test every single coin. My wife thinks I'm batshit crazy, but I don't care. I test every single coin. But basically, we can have something that's appealing both to collectors, like myself, and also appeals to people who are just like a bit of history. You think people want a bit of the wild, wild west, and we want a bit that's silver, and it's tangible. I can actually grip it in my hands and hold it, without any fear. It's one of those things that is just unbelievable. Now, there's common date Morgans, like the 1921 is probably the most common. But then you've got like rare dates like the 1883 S. S is for San Francisco, and 1889 CC, which is Carson City. Now, if you're lucky enough to own a Carson City coin, it doesn't matter what year you get it from, they're rare coins over in the UK. We don't see many Carson City coins. I mean, I've only ever had one, and foolishly I sold it. Don't get me wrong, the guy made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. I mean, it was a silly offer, and I had to say thank you. So, but you can still, have a nice little date run collection that doesn't have to break the bank. For me, if you're aiming to add coins, from across the whole spectrum, of this date run, you can do that for sort of like £50-60 upwards. So whether you choose to actually go for, like the bottom end coins, or whether you choose to go and do like I've been very fortunate. I've managed to collect some high end coins. I did have a few more, but I've sold them. But the point is, it gives us a hobby, a ladder to actually, to climb, that we can actually have it something that's affordable and it's worth something. Because whatever way you look at it, if you're buying close to the melt value, you can't be going wrong. You're having a bargain every time of the week. So really, bringing this together now, in summary, the Morgan dollar is a coin that was born from political pressure. It was sustained by a law that outpassed its own logic, bizarrely. It nearly gets erased by a wartime melt, and then gets resurrected by treasure hunters decades later. So this is not just a coin, it's a physical record of America's monetary politics, its Western expansion, and its strange relationship with money it didn't quite know what to do with. So today, from common dates that, like I say, they're worth probably, 1921s are like £50-60. But, if you want to get to the real value, like legendary rarities like the 1893S, this Morgan dollar remains one of the most collected coins in American history. Hopefully, I've piqued your curiosity enough to start paying a little more attention to the Morgan dollar, because these do appear very commonly, whether you're at auctions, antiques fairs, doesn't matter where you are, I always come across these. And if I've got a little bit of spare cash in my pocket, I often buy them if they're at the right money. So maybe I've piqued your interest enough to start collecting some of these wonderful coins. Anyway, what I'd like you to do is, if you like this video, have a look up in the corner, and or that corner, who knows where it goes these days, you know, like, but up in the corner there's going to be a link to the history of the British Crown, where I explore the coin's origins and history. So it's worth checking that out, so if you like this one. But above all else, what I want you to do, I want you to, one, put down in the comments if you've got any, you know, like Morgan dollars. Is it something you collect? Let me know in the comments. More importantly though, I want you to have a fantastic day. The sun's shining, it's nice and warm. Enjoy everything while you can. We're going to spend a long time looking at the lid, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just enjoy it while we can. You guys have a fab day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care now.